Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar. I'm very excited to be your host. We're going to talk about how to be primed for success, why mindset matters for you and your firm. I'm Kylie Wing, I'm the CMO at Approval Max. Approval Max is an app that streamlines the approval process for bills and invoices. And today we have some great speakers with us. So before we jump into our webinar, we'll start with a quick round of intros. The first person I'd like to introduce and welcome is one of our speakers. His name's Oriol López. Oriol, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, Kylie. I'm Oriol López from Barcelona. And well, after running my accounting firm for 15 years, I currently advise accountants and other professional service providers to help them accelerate their business by adding more value to their clients and their life. That's why I'm one of the only 50 mentors trained and credited by Alan Weiss, author of the books Proactive Entrepreneur and Growth and Thrive, not in English. And in 2016, I was named in Steve Pipe's book as one of the world's most inspiring accountants.
Well, we're very fortunate to have you here then. Thank you very much and welcome, Oriol. Now, we're going to move on now to Geoff Baker from Fathom. Over to you, Geoff.
Hi, Kylie. Hi, everyone. I'm not an accountant. My background is in telco and in tech. And I'm currently the head of customer for Fathom. So that's all of the interactions with customers who are largely accountants, obviously. That's my day job. My 24/7 job is husband and father to 3 kids. I'm based up here in Brisbane, but originally from the UK. I hope you can still tell from the accent. But yeah, really interested in this as a topic and keen to talk to this great panel today.
Fantastic. Thanks, Geoff. And tell us about your wife. This is her line of work. Yeah.
It is her line of work. She gets paid to do this stuff. So she's a professional and personal development coach, and yeah, dealing with mindset, confidence issues, overcoming anxiety, all of that kind of stuff. So I steal a lot of her ideas and only sometimes give her the credit for them.
This is great. Well, welcome and thanks for joining us, Geoff. And lucky last, we have Nattika Munro from Dex. Wonder Woman extraordinaire. Like, I'll get you introduce yourself, but while we're on the topic, Nattika, you're also studying psychology. Introduce yourself and tell us about your background.
Yeah, hi Kylie. Hi everybody. Yeah, as Kylie mentioned, I am studying psychology, so I have an absolute passion for mindset at the moment, and I am an accountant. I've been in the industry for quite some time, and my role at Dex now is head of accounting practice. So that means that I head up the customer success team or the onboarding team at Dex, and get to work in a pre-sales solutions role. So it's pretty exciting to be joining this panel today and getting to talk about my 2 loves.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I really look forward to hearing what you have to say, Nattika. Thank you. So what we're going to do now, we'll move on. We'll take a look at our discussion topics, shall we? Now, I promise this is going to be a really insightful session. So our discussions on mindset today, they're going to help you understand how you can tackle things from a personal level, from a professional level. As an accountant, you might be working on your own. You might be working with other team members, working directly with a client. Husband, wife, kids, doesn't matter. But all these strategies that we're going to talk about, you're going to be able to transfer them to different parts of your life. So this is very practical. We're going to work our way through all of these 5 chapters. We're going to end with a Q&A session. So in the as we go through this webinar, ask your questions in the panel, please, and use the upvote button if you see a good question from someone else. We'll tackle those right at the end. But right now, we are ready to move on now to our first chapter. We are going to open this session by talking about a growth mindset and a fixed mindset and the differences. So Nattika, let's start with you. Take us through what a growth mindset is and give us an example that we can all relate to.
Yeah, I think it's really important to know that a growth mindset is, I guess, the belief that our temperaments, our attitudes, our own beliefs as well can change, right? It's this mindset where we can actually grow as human beings. So when we apply these micro steps of believing that we can do something or that we're able to do something, and then having that application come through, we move our mindsets from a growth mindset. So that's kind of what a growth mindset is. A really great example of a growth mindset is the feedback I received just last week, really. Previously in the past, and I am not Definitely one that always sits in my growth mindset. I am one that ebbs and flows as well. So we will talk about, that it's okay to do that. Usually in the past, I would have gone to a fixed mindset and not taken that feedback on board, but I was able to work through that and then really understand the opportunity that a growth mindset does actually present. So for instance, okay, what can I learn from this feedback and how can I actually change or implement the learning from this feedback? So that's kind of what a growth mindset looks and feels like.
Fantastic. Thank you. And now, Geoff, let's move on to you. Fixed mindset. What is it? Why does it hold people back? Talk us through it.
Yeah, so I knew Nattika would give a great answer, so I could just say it's the opposite of what he said. But it's really that a belief that you can't grow new capabilities, that you're kind of stuck with your lot, which it sounds ridiculous when you say it, but you do often hear people say, "Oh, I'm just no good at that." Like, as a business, you would say collectively, "Oh, we're just not that type of company. We couldn't do that." And the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset the growth-minded person would be saying, "Well, I can't do that yet." But there's absolutely no reason why I can't invest time and energy and learn those skills and become fantastic at whatever it is that we're talking about. So the result of the fixed mindset is that you become less comfortable with change and less comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty, and you're resistant to taking on things, and you'll be much more comfortable staying with the status quo and in your comfort zone. I'm sure we'll talk about comfort zones a lot today as well. And they're not inherently a bad thing, but if you do need to change, and if there is a compelling why of why you need to do something differently, then you will need to get out of your comfort zone, and the growth mindset will do that, and a fixed mindset will try and keep you there. To Natika's point also, it's not that individuals are one or the other. It's not binary and you're always fixed or you're always growth. Certainly there's a propensity for most people to be one or the other. But we've all got a bit of both in us, and you can certainly coach yourself to be more with one than the other. So I actually find it helpful. I don't know if you've read a book, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. But it reframes it a little bit from being mindset to game. What game am I playing? Is this a finite game or an infinite game, which has endless possibilities? And obviously, to play in an infinite game, you need to be growing, developing, pivoting, responding to macro conditions and things like that. So just another perspective of a similar sort of concept. That's a bit about a fixed mindset, I would say. And I had an example which was really looking back at myself, and this is easy to do in retrospect, but at the time, I absolutely was not aware of this. And this is, as I said before, we've all got a bit of both in us, and no one goes deliberately into a fixed mindset. I'm going to be a fixed mindset about this sort of thing. It's just something that happens, and in this case was obvious to me in retrospect. But really through my career in my 30s, I was in a kind of middle manager job in a corporate firm, and good salary, nice house, but I had a big mortgage to pay for the nice house. So my wife and I had to work. So all the kids were in daycare, so we weren't really in a state of financial freedom at all. And my solution to that was pretty fixed, which was just keep working hard at what you're doing, get a promotion, and the salary will go up, and ultimately at some point you'll live this stress-free lifestyle. And it's totally not how it works, as many of us have figured out. So we made some massive changes to how we live, where we live, how we make money, and all those sorts of things. And all those opportunities started to sort of come at us once you sort of flip from a fixed path or a finite game to a growth mindset or an infinite game.
Fantastic. Thank you. So this is great. We've got the definition now. I want everyone, while we're on this webinar, to be really thinking about how you can apply these definitions and even analyze your own mindset now, what you want to be in the future. You might want to analyze your client's mindset, your managers, the people you work with. It's over to you. So what we're seeing here is, yes, you can absolutely change from being fixed to having a growth mindset, and that it completely shapes everything you do in your day-to-day life. So it's important to pay close attention. Okay, so we're going to move now to chapter 2. We're going to talk about how mindset affects your work, and from a relationships and a deliverables perspective. I mean, this is huge because everyone in the accounting industry has had to step up in the last 3 years. And so everyone's mental state or mindset has been challenged at some point in time. So I want to throw this over to Oriol. Let's hear from you. What are your thoughts on mindset and how it affects your work and your performance?
Well, I would put it, I think it's the opposite. So I think that your ability to work affects your mindset. because in my point of view, the action drives motivation, and it's not motivation that drives action. In practical terms, as accountants, you should probably plan time to think daily, speak to your best clients, at least quarterly, and do something related to what you want to achieve every day. And this way you will have a strong mindset. But it's not the opposite. It's not you prepare your mindset, then you start taking action, and then you improve your ability to work. I think you best start working, and then I'm sure your mindset and your ability to work will improve.
Fantastic. Thank you. So you're saying it's the opposite. Nattika, let's jump over to you. I know you have a view on this. Can you share your thoughts on how mindset affects you on a day-to-day level?
Yeah, I think for me, thinking about how mindset affects work is actually knowing when that fixed mindset is actually triggered. Because like Geoff has mentioned, and like I mentioned, you can move between, right? And we are humans, and every day we are going to be faced with different challenges at work. We might have really tough clients, or we might have a really tough engagement that we're working on, or it might be even internally our partners that we're servicing, from a staffing level. So it's really about understanding when your fixed mindset comes into play and how that then obviously affects how your output at work is. So one thing for me is if you're adopting that growth mindset, or you're recognizing when your fixed mindset is triggered, you can actually then see how your capacity to service, maybe it is your clients, might be reduced because you're stuck in this, mindset that I can't do this. This is too hard. They're never going to take this on. And it might be the same way in the way that you interact with your boss. And it might be the same. It's, I can't do this. And it's always this kind of, I can't yet. And then when Geoff mentioned it just before, it's this yet word, right? We talk about yet. And that's what allows us to shift. So when we are thinking about our clients, or when we're thinking about our teams, or when we're thinking even about embracing new challenges, it's really about going, I can't do this. And it might be I can't do this right now, but it's a yet thing. So it's going to move you across. And then what that's going to do is create capacity to then give you opportunities. And Geoff mentioned that before, right? It's the ability to shift that mindset into a place where I can work on this engagement. I'm okay, like I'm skilled enough. My client will take this opportunity or route that we've presented them, or my partner is going to allow me to do X, Y, and Z, and then obviously be in a position to challenge status quo, but then open the capacity up to service the people around you better, or your clients better as well. So I think it really does play a big part in how we also show up at work too.
Fantastic. Let's talk about for a moment the younger generation, okay? Because I know that when the younger generation are coming into new roles and they're joining, let's say they've joined a new firm, they may have come from another firm. Their way of doing things may not be the traditional way. They're learning things. They're coming up with new ideas on their own. They're educating themselves. What happens when we get a young up-and-comer joining a firm who says, look, can I put an idea in front of you? Can I suggest we do something a little differently in the approach that we're taking with this client, let's say? They might get the response, well, look, that's not how we do it here. If it ain't broke, why fix it? What's your response to
that? Look, I look back. Oh, sorry, was that Oriol?
Yeah.
I look back obviously into my career, and it's really about cultivating that from the top down. So for me, if you do have those newcomers coming into that firm and they have this growth mindset already, and a lot do, right? A lot are totally happy to give feedback, and they're really happy to present a new way of doing things or challenge the status quo. It's really about understanding that the way that we retain, or the way that we grow talent within our firm, is really top heavy as well as obviously bottom. But if you're not, as a leader, embracing that growth mindset, then it's going to be very hard for your staff to stay and work in that workspace continuously. So I think it's really about then working on yourself as a leader and shifting that mindset in your own.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we've talked about how mindset affects your day-to-day work, and the key takeaway for everyone on this call is to really think about how it affects you at your work, how you may be having interactions with others, how you may be having interactions with those clients, and what you can do with a growth mindset to take things to the next level. But let's move on now to something different. Let's move on to what we can do at an individual level to create a really strong and resilient mindset. So you may hear these words pop up all the time. There's a lot to unpack here. Geoff, let's go over to you. Let's go back your way. So we know about the growth mindset. We know about the fixed mindset, but how do we actually get there as individuals? How do we actually become strong and resilient?
Yeah, a few thoughts on this. So probably the number one way is experience. There's nothing like being in a situation before to know how to handle it again. Now, unfortunately, that's not an easy one to hack. Kind of experience comes with time. Well, it comes with bad judgment. They say good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment. So you need some sort of time in the game to develop that. Something that I've found more useful maybe in a shorter term is just the ability to understand what you can control and what you can't. There's an old prayer called the Serenity Prayer. You're probably familiar with the courage to change the things I can, the serenity to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is probably the one phrase that it means the most to me in life. I think it works on so many levels, and particularly when we're talking about resilience, it's the second two. So accepting things I can't change and the wisdom to know what they are. If you genuinely can do that, it's a really liberating experience. That is totally out of my, this is going to be a tough situation, but that part of it is completely out of my control. There's no point me spending any time or energy worrying about it. What I can do is plan the scenarios or plan what I can do in these situations. It gives you a real go forward to a sort of a toward mentality of what can I do, the growth mindset, what can I do, what's going to bring me forward, as opposed to languishing in things that are out of your control, or decisions that have been made, regrets that you've had. You literally can't change that stuff. So you just genuinely accept it and move forward is, as I said, I find very liberating if you can do that genuinely. The final point I was going to add is perspective. So it's tough when you're in the middle of a stressful situation and lots of plates spinning, you don't know where to start. What do I do first? It sounds simple, but what's the stuff that's going to be important tomorrow? And what's the stuff that's going to be important in a week's time as well? And what's the stuff that's going to be important in a month or a year? Like if there's stuff that's important on that type of scale, then that's important for you to worry about. If it's stuff that's going to blow over and actually isn't a big deal, it just feels like an urgent thing, it's actually not that important. So again, it sort of layers on top of understanding what you can control and what you need to be worried about. And if you can really distill down all of this noise and all of these things which could be competing for your attention and your energy and adding to that stress and anxiety, which is going to impact your, as we said before, from the mindset piece, it's going to impact your ability to concentrate and to work. You can clear out so much of that and distill your attention to a few things. It will make you more, it will help you make better decisions in tough times. And as I said, that's going to build experience and better judgment the next time you're in that situation.
Yeah. And I think as we go through periods of the year and through certain seasons when things get really, really top heavy, you've really got to tap into your resilience and really understand how you can use your mind to protect everything else that's going on. So when you leave your role and you're going back home, you're able to still have a great life and you're not bringing all of the stuff from work back home. Your mindset is everything, the way you can switch on and switch off. Oriol, let's go to you now. I know that you have mentioned something before about the word anti-fragile or anti-fragility instead of using the word resilience. Yes. Can you explain this concept with us?
Yes. After what we have lived since 2020, it's been a lot. I think you should not only aim to be resilient, but anti-fragile. Anti-fragility is a concept developed by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in a book called Anti-Fragile that refers to a property of an entity that benefits from stressors, shocks, disorders, rather than being harmed by them. So, in other words, it's the idea that some things not only survive in adverse conditions, but actually become stronger as a result. So, in my opinion, to create a strong mindset, you should be anti-fragile apart or besides resilient, because the first one makes you reactive, and it's good to be reactive. We must react to lots of things, questions of our clients, problems with our team, a lockdown. I mean, we need to be reactive, I know, but we also need to be proactive. And anti-fragility makes you be proactive towards your goals and your success. Getting the example, Geoff's example about the plates, I can remember this circus performance of a man with lots of plates that are all rounding all around him. And I always think, stop messing around and put your place in the table. And then start thinking proactively. So I think as an accountant, if you want to be resilient and if you want to be anti-fragile, you should trust more your instincts and permanently ask yourself what feels right. We have a tendency to use our brain in numbers because we are accountants, so we work as this way. But sometimes we need to trust our instincts, our gut, and make bold decisions with it. Let a client grow, increase your prices, launch a new service, among other decisions. And I think that's the best advice I got years ago, that it was trusting more my gut and less my brain.
Fantastic.
Not sure if it's...
And look, there's something on the slide there that says, what can we learn from high performance athletes? Okay, so there have been so many documentaries on this, and I'm going to throw over to you soon in a minute, Geoff, but what can we learn there? Because they're working and playing in high performance domains that are very stressful, everything switched on, high stress, win-lose situations, so much money on the line. When you draw on those parallels and we step into the accounting world and what's going on at the moment in every firm, all the challenges that everyone's facing, Geoff, how do we deal with that? What can we learn from high performance athletes?
Well, being a high performance athlete myself, Kylie, I'm obviously well qualified for this one. That's not true, by the way. I think there's obviously high performance athletes in any elite level sport or how that probably like elite musicians and things. Anyone that's taken a craft to an exceptional level, and it requires a huge amount of time, dedication, and focus. And the same applies, to be exceptional in business and to lead a really successful practice. So for me, it's that single-mindedness and attention to detail, which isn't always appropriate in business. Sometimes you just need to do most things well and not one thing exceptionally. So that there are some areas where the model doesn't quite work, but an elite athlete is absolutely focused on that one thing, and they'll do it again and again and again, and they'll visualize themselves doing it in the future. And we spoke about this briefly earlier. I don't think visualizing sort of every meeting you're going to have is practical, but certainly if you've got a really tough meeting coming up with a client, or if you're talking to your boss or a partner or something like that, absolutely it's worth spending the time deeply visualizing how that's going to play out, how the conversation is going to go, what are they going to ask me, what are my responses. So there are certainly some parallels there. The other thing I'd mention is accepting losses or accepting defeats, which is part and parcel, obviously, for any sports person, or for the vast majority at least. You just have to dust yourself off and move. You can't dwell on last week's game because it's happened. It's in the past. You take your learnings from it, but you can't. It's this point I made about acceptance. You got to accept the things you can't change. You can't change last week's result. So accepting, moving forward with the learnings and the lessons is a parallel I would take from the sports arena.
Fantastic. Okay, let's go back to you, Nattika, then. Let's go straight into like the most stressful season of all then for accountants. What do we have to do here differently to move forward so that we can use our mindset to get us in a really good space when we're under stressful situations?
Yeah, look, I think this is really about those micro movements that Geoff was talking about before as well. Those periods in accounting they get quite hot and heavy, right? And I think back to audit season or tax season for those that are on the call. And it is really about making sure that we're putting some resilience in play, micro resilience in play, and anti-fragility, I can't say that word, in play to make sure that we can get that. But that, again, I think I keep coming back to individuals contribute to a movement and emotion as well, and that energy that's created together will obviously put you in that mindset as well. So it's really also being cognizant of how your mindset really does influence and affect, I guess, the people around you as well.
Yeah, and let's pick the W word, the why. I think in those moments when you're just feeling like this is just over the top, I don't know how I'm actually going to get through the week, drawing back on your purpose as an accountant is often handy, because you have your overall purpose, but then there's that purpose where that one client relies on you for this. It's not even just that one client. How many clients are you impacting and changing the lives of? So your mindset has to be able to support them, because look, we haven't even talked about this yet, but how we actually take mindset as an individual, say if you're an accountant, and transfer that over to the client so they can then adopt a growth mindset to their business. We'll get into that very shortly, but thank you for your thoughts. That's a really nice one to wrap that one up. Thanks, Nattika. Let's move on to strategies now. Okay, so we'll move on to chapter 4. Okay, strategies to drive success in your accounting firm. We're kind of already starting to talk about this lightly, but we really need to dig into this. Nattika, carry on talking about that top-down approach that you mentioned before, how to shift the mindset at a firm level. It's hard to do it on your own, right? What's top-down to you?
Yeah, look, it absolutely is. But it really is about recognizing where, I guess, the firm is at in a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And I keep talking about like it is an innate term effectively, but remembering that we are going to ebb and flow. But what is the sentiment around the firm around embracing challenges? Or what is the sentiment around actually adopting technology? And I'm just talking about that from a team perspective, or allowing your team to learn. Having worked in a firm, I know that there are some challenges, obviously, in your day-to-day where you're going to be focused on your billables, and you don't give the space or the time, or the capacity is not given to staff to actually go and learn and move from that, I've just got to get through the day in that hamster wheel, across to what can I learn? How can I grow my capacity? What can I fail at? I think notoriously as risk-adverse personalities, we're sometimes not allowing our teams to fail. And it's one of those things, because we work for engagements, we give the facade that we can service clients 100%. I'm always going to say that sometimes it is a facade, because you obviously pull a lot of levers out, but it's that ability to allow your staff or yourself, if you're a partner or middle manager, to actually have that capacity to try new things, fail, grow from those learnings, because that's what's actually going to allow the rest of your team to do the same. And in turn, like Geoff has mentioned, opening up for that success to come through.
Yeah, and a lot about failure comes down to how safe you feel in your environment to fail, right? So being able to do that with the safety net, and you're not going to be hung out to dry, but in your firm you want to be supported by your manager, director, partner, whoever, and you want them to be able to look into the lessons, steer you in the right direction if you need it, and course correct. Oriol, let's jump over to you, because there's this connection between mindset and pricing strategies that you have talked about before. Can you go into that and share an example for us?
Yes, I think part of our mindset is affected by what we get, what we cash in on. So I always advise to accountants that they should set their prices right. I mean, there's this managing director of a 300,000 euros in revenues firm, was a client of mine. He entered my mentor program in April 2020, so during the lockdown. And a month later, he received a call from a client who was, as others, was struggling financially. In the past, he would rapidly go through their profit and loss statement to help them reduce costs while decreasing his own fees to make it easier for the client to resist at the expense of his own profit and life. And I think you will empathize with this behavior, because I think all of us have made this mistake of putting our client's life before ours. But he made it different this time. he met the client, he has good questions, and talk about their needs. And after that, he asked the client if he wanted some help. The client said yes. He sent a proposal with a brand new service we created to measure and improve their financial performance. And 1 week later, this client that was struggling financially and was willing to reduce costs accepted the proposal, and he started to work. It was a 30,000 proposal for a year. It's a 10% of his revenues, 10% of the firm revenues. I mean, a year later, the client asked for a renewal, and the accountants asked for referrals. And I think that's part of the mindset. I always say that the right price is the one that makes you happy 3 times. Before doing the job, when you send the proposal, so you are happy and excited about this proposal and about this price, what will happen if the client accepts? During the job itself, and when you actually work, and you can relate those times in which we have set a price that it's too low, and then we receive the work and we say, oh, it's a lot of work for this price, and I have made this mistake. So when you set the price right, you enjoy the work, the job itself, and you also enjoy the price makes you happy, and another time that it's after the job when you receive repeated business and referrals, and when you actually monetize and get the money in your bank account. So I think that pricing is one of the things that accountants should improve, because it's pricing what in the end we measure ourselves in terms of who are we working for, what are we doing for them, but also what we get from this client or from this work. And as an accountant, we told before that we use numbers, or we use our brain, or we use our gut. So when you set your prices, you should trust your gut and your brain and say, okay, is this price, this price feels right for me? I think that's the point of pricing and mindset.
Great. And having belief in yourself, backing yourself as well. I mean, this is such a big thing. Nattika, what would you say, having gone through, being an accountant before, for those accountants on this call who maybe shy away in sales and talking about pricing and fees is not their strongest suit, what would you say to them about the connection between that and adopting the right mindset, the growth mindset, to have those conversations confidently?
I think we naturally have those conversations, and as I guess accountants, we shy away from the selling methodology, or we may think in that fixed mindset that it's somewhat beneath us. But funnily enough, we do it every day, and like Oriol said, we're doing it in that engagement piece when we send that a letter. We're doing that in those client meetings. We are effectively a salesperson. We're just not maybe believing, like you said, Kylie, in our strength of being that person. So we've got to really believe in our work, be happy with our work, because that's, and that goes back to obviously having that ability to maybe not be able to service the client 100%, but believing that you'll get to a really good spot with them down the line. And then just obviously making sure that, I think that we truly actually, going back again to your belief points, I think believe that we can get there in the end with our clients, and shifting that frame of mind that we're in.
Fantastic. And Geoff, do you have anything to add to this section?
Well, I don't work in a firm, as you know, so maybe a slightly different perspective, but certainly across our team, our global team, we have a huge amount of importance on goal setting, and goals should be stretching but achievable. But we do often throw in one or two that are big, scary targets that we're not quite sure we're going to be able to do yet, or how we're going to do it yet. And what's great about, you get into the cadence of ticking off goals that you've achieved. You get a little dopamine hit every time you can put a tick in a box and say, yep, feel good about that. So that strengthens your confidence and builds a healthy culture and mindset. And importantly, if you take the time to reflect and look backwards, you can see how far you've come in whatever it is, 3 months, 6 months, a year. we used to be down at this level. Now we're up at this. That is really rewarding, and again reinforces a healthy mindset and a healthy culture. Coming back to the point Oriol made right at the beginning, sort of whether it's mindset first or action first. I think it's iterative. It's a bit of both, right? You get started and you see a good result, and that improves your mindset and gives you confidence to step it up, and then you step it up. It's like the common analogy is starting at the gym, right? It takes a huge mental shift to get yourself to the gym the first time, but when you start seeing results, you're like, actually, this is actually quite cool. I'm quite enjoying this, and then that drives your motivation to go back. So this regular cadence of setting goals, hopefully achieving most of them, and building confidence that way. And coming back to those big, scary ones that I talk about, those are the ones that really drive personal development, and people can be really proud of when they look back. As I said, 6 months ago, I had no idea how to do this. And now not only have I done it, I've nailed it. That's what's really rewarding, I think, to people in my team, and reinforces, as I said, great culture and a strong mindset to continue to grow and take on even bigger challenges.
Fantastic. Thank you, Geoff.
May I add something to this? Because I completely agree with Geoff, and I was thinking about the team and about how to change his mindset in the team, and how to make them stronger. Sometimes you should ask yourself, as a firm and as a company, as any kind of business, if your team is doing, if everyone in your team is doing what they know, you are probably stopping or slowing innovation. So you should try to make things different, and you should try to get your team to try other team members' job once in a time. It's not every day, but you can have someone that is doing bookkeeping, a bookkeeper trying to make it a tax return, or in the opposite, because I think this way you empathize with your team members, you empathize with your client, and you start learning new things. And I think that's part of the mindset. That's one of the strategies you should aim for. That it's is your team doing what they know, what they know, or they are being uncomfortable in jobs they really don't know how to develop.
Yeah, we actually do that here at Dext. We do day in the life. We're starting to implement day in the life of, so that our team members can grow and have the kind of understanding of different roles. And I think that's really important within firms to absolutely do that, to make sure that you can feel the pain points, but you can also feel the highs and the different work to drive even success and progression within firms, having that mindset shift that they want to go in a different path. It's really important.
Love that.
Fantastic. Thank you. We are going to move on to another chapter now. We're going to talk about the connection between mindset and technology. So this is obviously a big one with automation at the core. It's helping us do loads more than we ever possibly could have in the past. But what's the connection between technology and your mindset? Geoff, I'll hand over to you. Share your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, interesting, complex question and relationship. So technology products like Fathom in this space, and some of the others on the call, it's going to help you operate at scale. You're going to be able to work with more clients more accurately, more quickly, than you ever could possibly hope to do if you weren't using technology to implement that. But at the heart of it, there's got to be a human driving it, or humans who are making the decision that this is the right thing for us to do, either individually or as a practice. We need to get behind it. So the technology is just an enabler to do that at scale. It's really someone has to make their mind up to go and do this properly. And what we see this every day within Fathom, and I've spoken about this before. There's two types of customers that come and sign up to our software. There's, on the one hand, one who's been quite reactive to a client request. I need to forecast my. They obviously want to help that client as much as they can. Okay, great. I'll go and find a solution, and they sign up to Fathom and they use it for that particular client. Versus another type of firm that's had that same interaction, but seen that as an opportunity. Okay, I've got clients who are asking for this stuff. I've got to, this is potentially an opportunity to change the direction of my firm, or step change my revenues. So they are much more likely to package a forecasting service, price it appropriately, build a deep understanding of how the tools and technology can work. And obviously, from our perspective, that's the type of firm that's going to really accelerate versus the other, which is not. And it's a really good example of growth and fixed mindset. So one person has seen an opportunity to change and learn and grow, and the other has been somewhat reluctantly just bolting something on to the status quo. But the only difference really is the mindset. Now, my team, it's a bit out of our remit to change people's mindsets. We typically will talk to someone who's made that decision already, and we'll help them do that at scale, as I said. But I guess for us, and going back to the question around technology, is showing how easy it is to make the first step. And this is some feedback we get all the time from customers who have scaled up an advisory service within their practice. And like, we thought about it for ages, we weren't sure, we didn't have the first step. When you see how easy it is to get started, and you just put one foot in front of the other, that's the feedback we always get. I just needed to get started, and it kind of flows. So yeah, the technology can certainly help if it makes life easier, and it truly delivers on being able to fulfill something at scale, and it's not actually creating more work and more hurdles. But what we typically find is most of those hurdles are in people's mindset to say, it's too hard, we're not that type of practice, or I don't know how to do advisory. And again, that's the fixed and growth mindset approach. Can I learn this stuff? And if so, how do I get started? Versus, no, this isn't for me.
Great, thank you. And Nattika, you have mentioned old ways will die hard in the new era.
Yeah. Look, I even think back into how I used to, do my job in practice. And then obviously, as you go on this journey, when you are adopting technology and you are trying to, I guess, reframe what it's supposed to do for you and what it is going to be able to allow for, so that that capacity or those more opportunities is what I think. I think that's a really nice way to be out of that fixed mindset. There's a lot of fear around technology, and as much as we might say that there isn't, there absolutely still is around our industry, around the jobs that it may take away, or if I can't be spending the time on doing something, then how do I bill? And it was really interesting. I said this comment to my partner, who's a lawyer, the other day. He's in his early 30s, and I was like, you should be using, and I probably shouldn't say, but ChatGPT to write letters now for you. Look at the amazing stuff that it can actually do for you, and the output and the time that we saved. He's like, yeah, but how do I bill? And me, as someone who sits here every day talking about shifting, and Geoff, you said that it might not be in the remit of your team, but I definitely have those conversations with clients, trying to get them to that shift. It was very interesting to see, even from, someone who would be deemed as a millennial and will have an old habit that will die in the new era. So I think for me, it's really about seeing the opportunity, right? And it is that, what can we do with the time? What can we do with the people? What can we do to grow as individuals? And it's that adoption piece, but also understanding that technology is never going to fill a pain point 100%, right? Like, there are still going to be humans required on so many levels when we are speaking with, accountants and bookkeepers, and when we're speaking with clients every day, they still need humans. So I think it is that kind of that realization that if you continue doing the work the old way, it's probably going to die a little bit, but that technology can get you there into that newer mindset. But also we'll still need humans are still very much required.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I've come across when I've been talking to accountants and bookkeepers, usually it's at events, and they'll talk to me and they'll say, I have a client and I've been talking to them about Approval Max. And often the client is, but why do I need to change? I've always been approving my bills and invoices via email, phone calls, and just on paper. What is actually wrong with that? If it isn't broken, then why are we talking about this? And there's this whole shift around education. Okay, education is just one thing. But one thing that I think is quite interesting is sometimes we don't talk about those emotional benefits. We get stuck talking about the technical benefits, the features, the power of what it can do under the platform, how it can save you time and money. But we need to have this conversation about, I guarantee you it will make you 100% happy. You don't have to go through that burden and that administrative, mess every month. Your happiness factor, it's being happy. It's looking forward to the next day and being able to contribute to something meaningful that makes you feel really good. The happiness part that technology can help drive is incredibly important. And I can't attest to this, but I don't know how many accountants are having conversations with their clients about happiness and how this can help drive them. But I certainly think it's an interesting topic. Once people tend to understand what automation can do, and when they realize it in the blink of an eye, they're sold. One example is I remember back in the day when PayWave and Tap and Go was being introduced, people were so fixed towards that. They're like, no way, I'm never going to do that. Someone could steal my wallet and take all my money. But now we live in a world where no one's even, you can pay for things on your phone. So we've completely shifted away. But it's the happiness factor as well. And yeah.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm not an expert, but as an accountant, I have had my experiences about technology. I'm not the one that I do not recommend to jump on every new technology that we have, but there are technologies that have been around us for years, and we still are scared of using them. And I think that the main point of technology is to delegate everything you need, but you don't want to do, such as compliance work and this kind of stuff. And start thinking proactively and say, okay, what do I really want to achieve?
Yeah.
What I actually enjoy doing. It's a little bit with as this client of the pricing example before. He now uses technology, but he uses technology to do all the things that he needs to do because clients ask for, but he don't want to do. And then he enjoys working on financial performance for the clients. So I think that the main point of technology is that is to delegate, to delegate whatever you need to do, but you don't want to. And there's lots of technologies that can help you.
Absolutely. Do all the heavy lifting so you can focus on other projects that are more meaningful. This brings us to a quote that we have here. This is from Dan Osborne, and many of you on this call may know Dan. He's a self-proclaimed accountant. He's from CATS, Accounttex and Financial Planning. And he was on Heather Smith's Cloud Stories podcast. And on this topic, he had to say, have an open mind to something new. Always look for a way to remove friction, make something easier and more efficient. If you have that mindset, you'll always be able to adapt to any new technology because you're not relying on one thing. You're open to whatever's best. And this is absolutely what we need to remember, whatever's best. We're not using our past judgment or fixed mindset to decide. It's having access to information, looking for ways to improve something, Kaizen, continuous improvement. Does anyone have anything to add to Dan's statement? I think it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it reminds me a little of, so prior to Fathom, I was at QuickBooks, and the Intuit founder, Scott Cook, had a nice phrase, which is fall in love with the customer problem, not your solution. And it's true on so many levels. So if you think you've got the right solution and you're like investing everything in this, the customer problem can evolve, other competitors can evolve, and you can get left behind. But if you're continually focused on the problem that you're trying to solve, and you're loosely attached to this current set of solutions that you offer, you will by default be in a sort of a growth mindset and continue to evolve and develop. So focus on the problem, not your solution, should keep you on your toes, essentially.
Very good. I think we can all focus on that at an individual level.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Geoff, because in Catalan we have an expression that says that if you have a hammer, you only see nails.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So you need to listen more to your clients.
Yeah, it absolutely
Less to
reminds,
yourself.
it reminds me of a time when I went into a meeting with a client. I had a really fixed mindset that they would and turn no, but they were so open and adaptable. And I think it was a massive change for them. It was a massive inventory implementation. But because they were so open, it was actually one of the best implementations we had, because they were just open to the learnings that came with a brand new implementation. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nattika. Let's go to the next section. We're going to head into Q&A. So I just want to check if there have been any questions. And while I do that, I can just see there have been some comments. Hi, Clayton. Clayton Oates has commented previously back when Oriol was talking about a great example, Oriol. I love your notion of being happy 3 times with the price and trusting your gut and brain. Thanks, Clayton. And he's also mentioned when Geoff was speaking about setting goals. Totally agree, Geoff. Setting goals, achievable goals for the small wins and big, audacious ones that we have no idea how they're going to happen is a great habit to develop. Just really push yourself out there. Thank you, Clayton. Thank you. So we will go through questions very quickly. We may only have time for one. We have a question here. I work for an accounting firm. My manager has a completely fixed mindset. This is quite difficult to bring up in a conversation. How do I approach this if I want the manager to adopt a growth mindset? Please advise. Who wants to take that one?
I think you should be straight. Sorry, Geoff.
Go for it.
I think it's those. If an accountant has a fixed mindset, it's probably because he trusts a lot in his brain and numbers, or her brain and numbers. So you should probably put numbers in front of him in terms of what clients want, what clients are aiming for, or what are they paying for, and make him realize that that's a good idea for itself. You can also bring some clients' conversations, but I would surely address this issue at the risk of losing my job. I did it in the past. So I lost my job. So it's part of the game.
My only comment, Kylie, would be to sort of reiterate what I said before around either talking about fixed mindsets or talking about playing finite games. To some extent, they're interchangeable, but going to your boss and saying you've got a fixed mindset, to Oriol's point, could be career limiting. But going to them saying it feels like we are playing a finite game is a much more collaborative approach to, okay, what more could we be doing? What's actually a bigger goal that we could be aiming for, or the client could be headed towards, and trying to work in a more collaborative way rather than something which could probably come across as quite confrontational if you directly accuse their mindset of being too fixed.
Yeah, fantastic. Nattika?
Yeah, look, I would add that it's probably a lot of mindset sometimes can be of wanting to, I guess, appear smart or look smart and having this fear of failure. And I think sometimes it's really important as humans to understand the kind of fear level that's underneath some of that fixed mindset too. Because remember, fixed mindset keeps you safe. So to shift that mindset and to shift that into that opportunity, there's a level of fear there, because as humans, we want to stay safe, and our bodies are designed for us to stay safe. So it might even just be quite understanding. I'm quite straightforward and quite transparent, and it might be just probing the why, right? We do it with our clients when we're talking to them to possibly challenge their mindsets. So it's okay, and it's safe enough to ask the why a few more times, because usually you get down to the root of the cause, and you actually learn something more about that particular boss or that partner. And it might be, a triggered state that they're in, or a fixed mindset that they're in just because of that moment, not necessarily overarching or overall. So asking why, just ask the whys.
And if I may, and accept that not everyone wants to be helped.
Yep.
So it's part of the game.
Absolutely. All right, team, let's wrap this up. So we are coming to the end of our webinar now. We have gone through a number of topics, but we now know the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset. We know how it affects your ability to work. We have come up and discussed some best ways for you at an individual level to take some of these tips and apply them into your personal life and also your working life as well. How to create a strong and resilient mindset, how to be anti-fragile and adopt that as well. We've talked about how to bring this into the firm level. We've talked about the culture being top down and a number of other things to support mindsets within the firm level, across the team, flowing onto clients as well and coaching them. We've talked about pricing. We've talked about technology and how technology can play a huge part in the mindset role, in the mental skills, and in the day-to-day happiness of your client. So what we have done is we've pulled all of that together, and right now it's over to you as an attendee to decide what you're going to do with it at an individual level, at a team level, with your manager, with your colleagues, with your client. It's a challenging one, and it's always going to evolve. So that's the beauty of mindset. It's always changing as long as you're putting in the effort and exercising it like a muscle. Keep exercising, always flex, never stop. So that draws to the end of our webinar now. I'd just like to close by thanking Oriol, Nattika, Geoff. Thank you very much for being speakers on this webinar and sharing your experiences with us and how we can overcome some of these challenges. I will also say that Approval Max, Text and Fathom, we're going to be at Accounttex Sydney on the 15th and the 16th of March. So we'd love to see you there if anyone's going. We're all going to be doing talks. And right now I'm just going to pop up a poll. Just going to ask to have that brought up on screen, because if you would like access to special offers from Approval Max, Text or Fathom for you or your clients, you can let us know, and we will, if you just go down to the polls section, click in the bottom right hand corner, just pop a quick yes no answer in there. We'd be more than willing to help you out. Please come and talk to us as well. Okay, so that is it, team. That is the end of our webinar. I hope you've enjoyed the session. From here, go forth, really apply and work hard on your mindset strategies, and drop us a line. Let us know how it goes. But thank you very much again to our speakers. Thank you to attendees for turning up, listening. Thank you and take care. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye all.